So hope you all enjoyed the breakout programming, but now we've got a real treat for you. Now, from its earliest days, the USJC has explored entrepreneurship and innovation in the U.S.-Japan relationship in many ways. Most notably, since 2016, we have supported the Silicon Valley Japan platform that was founded under the leadership of Dan Okimoto, who himself was a founding board member of the USJC. And that SVJP, as we call it, is done in partnership with the International House of Japan. Now today, we look at innovators from the angle of the experience of Japanese who have come to the States to build their companies or to expand their impact. Now, to moderate the panel, we welcome USJC's Board of Directors co-chair Kathy Matsui, who flew in all the way from Tokyo for this conference. I got to know Kathy early on years ago when I was at NHK, and she would often appear in our business news program, commenting on stocks, because back then she was chief strategist at Goldman Sachs. Today, she's probably even more well-known for that term, womenomics, that she coined. That's that groundbreaking research that spurred the Japanese government to incorporate womenomics into its growth strategy. In 2020, Kathy co-founded Empower Partners, that's Japan's first ESG-focused venture capital fund. Now, Kathy will be in conversation with Recruit Holdings, Hisayuki Idekoba, Oishii Farms Hiroki Koga, and SNR Evermaze Dr. Sachiko Kuno. So Kathy will share more about her panelists, and so let's all welcome Kathy and her panel.
So I know it's been a long, almost 2 days, but I'm really, really excited about this session. As Fred explained, we're going to be examining this topic of entrepreneurship from a slightly different angle, meaning Japanese entrepreneurs and business people who have really challenged themselves and become very successful in the United States of America. And we have the privilege today of hosting three really remarkable individuals who've made significant contributions to the business landscape, not just in Japan and the United States, but also in some cases globally. And we're going to delve into their unique experiences and insights into entrepreneurship, innovation, and philanthropy. So let's get started. So to my direct left is Idekoba-san. You heard he is the president and CEO of Recruit, and he's going to share with us how Recruit transformed itself into a global company through strategic acquisitions of US businesses. Many of you know they acquired Indeed.com as well as Glassdoor. He also, I got some tidbits because we were prepping in the backstage that I said, is it really okay to share this in front of this crowd? He said, yeah. I said, what is one thing that people don't really know about you? He says, well, he loves playing games, video games. So he said on long flights, which he takes many, you can see him like his head's down and it looks like he's working really hard, but actually he's, what is it called? Nobunaga? some popular game, but anyway, if anybody wants to challenge CEO Idekoba-san, please talk to him afterwards. Koga-san is the CEO of Oishii. I don't know if many of you have heard of it, but Oishii is a very innovative startup specializing in, get this, growing strawberries in vertical farms in New Jersey.
New Jersey.
And he's going to discuss his experience as a Japanese entrepreneur who ventured to the States to establish his ag business. Koga-san asked him, what do people not know about you? And he knows US-Japan Council through his classmate at Berkeley, Derek Kenmotsu. Derek, are you here somewhere? Anyway, they had a very interesting experience at Cal, and I'll have him tell you later, but basically deciding maybe that academic was not the right path for you, and at some point you're going to start your own business, and you thought that was more important. I'll leave it at that. You can explain more later. To the far left is Kuno Sensei. Kuno Sensei is a dear, dear friend of mine for many years. She is, if you don't know who Kuno Sensei is, you got to get to know this woman. She is probably the most successful female entrepreneur who's come from Japan, came to the United States. She ended up here in this area, in the Washington, D.C., Maryland area. And she became not only a very successful entrepreneur, taking her pharmaceutical company public on NASDAQ, that eventually got acquired for, was it 1.2 billion US dollars? But that didn't stop her. Then she turned her focus to philanthropy. So a very, very fascinating career and life story. So let's begin our discussion. I'm going to start with you, Idekoba-san. As I mentioned earlier, Recruit has had an extraordinary expansion phase through acquisitions, particularly here in the United States. He just told me that, I didn't know this, but did you know that Recruit's revenues outside of Japan were less than 1% in 2011, so just a few years ago, but as of last year, he said that ratio is now 57%. So just a complete transformation. So love to hear, or could you tell the audience more about, I know Japan companies frankly don't have a great track record in overseas M&A, but what challenges did you encounter and what are the lessons learned?
Yeah, so Kathy, you asked about my challenges about acquisition of Indeed and Glassdoor. So, when I acquired Indeed, when I was talking with them, like they had 70 million-ish revenue, and now, last year they got like 7.5 or 8 billion, so they grew like 100%, so 100 times. So not only acquisitions, they themselves grew a lot. And so the challenge is, every time I thought about challenges, I was not the person who got a challenge. Actually, everybody around me had a lot of challenges because Indeed was not acquired by Google or Facebook, these cool US tech companies. They were acquired by weird Asian, Japanese company, which is called Recruit. Nobody knows in the US. And, and also weird Asian came in and he's saying like, hey, I'm a new CEO. And this guy even cannot speak English well. That's so scary. So I think they had a lot of challenges, how, they can work with me. And that's why I really focused on to have a very clear mission to be a one team. What I'm saying is, hey, you guys, you don't need to work for Recruit or you don't need to work for Japanese company. We have a good mission, which is we help people get jobs. Clearly, the job thing is very important thing for everybody, for the society, and that's our mission. So I think I said many times, this is our goal. We have to be one team. You don't need to work for a Japanese company. So as a result, as you know, like most of companies after the acquisitions, immediately after the lockup period, everybody left, right? A bunch of executives left. But we were so lucky, we can keep almost all executives after the acquisition for 10 years. And even like founder of Indeed and founder of Glassdoor are working with us still today. That's, so that's very
unusual
and great thing, especially like Japanese company acquired US tech company and people are working for us is amazing. So I really believe that, having very important mission as a goal is very important for, it doesn't matter if it's Japanese company or US company, as a global company, I think it's a very important thing.
Well, I'm sure you explained it, that it was alignment of mission and vision, and that helped the integration process, but I'm sure along the way it was not so easy. And I notice you don't have any Texas accent either, so you still need to work on that. Koga-san, as the founder of a very unusual company, You went to school at Berkeley, obviously, and what made you come up with this idea to grow Japanese strawberries in America? Tell us a little bit about that journey and the challenges you faced.
Of course. So just a little bit about my background. I was born and raised in Japan, and I had a couple of years during my elementary school years where I had the opportunity to go abroad. So that's when I first started thinking, when I grow up, maybe I want to be someone who can bridge Japan and the rest of the world. But for many, many years, I didn't know what exactly that was. And so after college, graduating from a Japanese college, I joined consulting. And that's when I first came across the vertical farming industry in its nascence more than 10 years ago in Japan. So for those of you who don't know about this industry, basically vertical farming is a technology where you can grow crops in a completely closed environment using LEDs instead of the sun. And with this technology, essentially what you can do is you can grow crops anywhere around the world without being impacted by the outdoor climate conditions and with a lot less resource, right? And so I got into that industry more than 10 years ago, and Japan was the first country to really commercialize vertical farming. And this was led by large Japanese corporates like Panasonic, Toshiba, Sharp, NEC. But ultimately, they all struggled or failed because they could only grow lettuces. And it's a commodity product. You couldn't price differentiate, but your cost was significantly higher than traditional agriculture. So they couldn't make a good business case out of it. So even though the innovation was great, it didn't work out. And in 2015, I had the opportunity to come to the US to get into Berkeley and do my master's there. And that's right around when vertical farming started to take off outside of Japan here in the United States. And it was really driven by the sustainability pressure on the agriculture industry. And so at age 28, I was in this very unique position where I was one of the most knowledgeable person on this industry that was almost guaranteed to become as big as probably $500 billion or even $1 trillion in the next 50 years. And I happened to be at the heart of Silicon Valley, having access to the American market as well. So I didn't become an entrepreneur because I admire Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. It was about this passion that I had in me about being a Japanese, being able to bring something from Japan to the rest of the world. And so it was actually very easy for me to take on this because to me it was the aha moment for sure. And so after that I graduated from Berkeley, and then I've been doing this for the past 6 years.
And
Challenge.
he's been carrying around kind of a big insulated bag. So if you're lucky enough to catch him with this bag, you say, Koga-san, do you have anything in that bag? You can try his very, very delicious Japanese grade Ichigo strawberries, which now you can find in Whole Foods.
And so most of the Whole Foods in Manhattan and 3 select Whole Foods in Washington. We are expanding our facility very quickly. So by the end of this year, probably in Boston and parts of Pennsylvania as well.
Very, very delicious. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kuno Sensei. So you've obviously had an incredible journey from entrepreneur, moving from Kyoto to the United States. And after incredible success, Kuno Sensei, for those of you who don't know, was also I think the only Japanese woman on the Forbes Self-Made Women list for several years. But that wasn't enough for you. You wanted to give back to society, and then you started to venture into this world of social entrepreneurship. So you want to tell us about that journey and that transition?
Yes, thank you so much, Cassie, and very much nice and proud to be here today. And eventually, Ichigo is very delicious, so he is very kind to give us this. So I was born in Japan, and less than 10 years after the Second World War, so I'm almost at retirement time, but educated in Japan, and so my initial goal was to be the basic scientist, but around the age of 30, I encountered the discovery, and I saw that's a very big discovery with a great potential. So that I changed career to be a little business side entrepreneur, and together with my co-founder, Dr. Ryuji Ueno, who is inventor and discoverer of this discovery, and also the co-founder of the business, we are able to develop and launch 2 new drugs and based upon this scientific discovery. And we are very much lucky enough, fortunate enough in Japan. Even in Japan, I saw, however, that the early 90s, and we are struggling to raise money because that is when Japan started to see some sort of the, I think, the recession time.
Yeah.
So that we decided to come to the United States and to us and to start again an entire U.S. startup company in Bethesda, Maryland. So that we started a company in a small apartment in Bethesda, 2-bedroom, and so that is. So I think that's the kind of journey, and we haven't seen any success or something like that at the beginning, but we are very much. Maybe that's, I think, scientific background and helped us to create a new drug, and also the very much fortunate enough for us to raise money here and to move forward in development and launch the products. So that in my life, and I saw from the discovery day to the launch of the product and the pharmaceutical medicine twice, and that is very much fortunate enough. And so I think that is not so easy for everyone to see. So I'm always thinking I am maybe one of the most fortunate scientists in the world to see the twice that's whole the journey for the product. So, and especially the success rate, and it used to be 0.01% or something. So that is very much the fortune. So that when I had a chance to step down from the company 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, I thought what I can do for the next. So that is a starting point for me to think about philanthropy or nonprofit field, especially that one scientist, researcher told me, how could you do such a risky business without fear? He asked me, but I have no answer at all at that time, because this is not, and I was not inspired or incentivized only the economic success. So it should be something else I had, but I did not know what would be. So that is a kind of journey, the 10 years, and starting from 2012 is how we can create I think the circumstances or ecosystem where people can be inspired and intuitive and to think about something new which might be changing the world. So that is an incubator we are now having in Washington, D.C., Georgetown, Washington, D.C. That's called Halcyon. So that is, I think, starting 9 years ago, and we have created more than 300 entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, and created 6,000 jobs. And also, I think that is 9 million people have been already impacted by the overseas service of the product. And they, in total, they raised money in $500 million, something. So that is, even though the philanthropic world and nonprofit is much more like thinking about creating a new impact. So almost like the startup. Yeah. So I'm very much pleased to do that the past 10 years. So yeah.
So if you're ever in Georgetown, it's called Halcyon. It is an amazing facility that she's created for, as she said, social entrepreneurs to live together and get ideas and stimulation from one another.
Yeah.
And as you heard, she has created already tremendous impact from this incubator for social entrepreneurs. But that's not enough. She did the same thing in Kyoto. She built a similar social entrepreneurship incubator called Toberu in Kyoto, which I had the pleasure of visiting as well. So I think Kuno-sensei to me is somebody who is so inspiring because you're trying to help those young people, particularly young people who are trying to change the world, trying to solve societal challenges, but in a very impactful way, because philanthropy can be just, just write a check, I'll make a donation here or there, but you're really trying to create the sustainable cycle.
That's true, that's true,
impact, which is very impressive. So you've heard each of their stories, very, very unique journeys, each of them, of course, in different stages and contexts, but if we could just hear a little bit more about some of the, again, lessons that you've learned, especially from a globalization perspective. You're all Japanese nationals. You're living in Austin now for 12 years, Idekoba-san, and of course you came as a student, and Kuno-sensei has been here a very long time. You know, what kind of experiences, lessons you want to share from, you know Japan, you know Japanese psyche. I'm more in the world of startups these days. I was telling these people before, most of the entrepreneurs that our team meets every day in Japan, I would say, are not thinking global. They're thinking, I want to become top 3 in the domestic market, right? Whereas if you're an entrepreneur in Israel or Korea, it's like day one, they're thinking the US market or global. So just want to share anything on those lines about globalization or innovation in general?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, I think Japanese companies tend to be, risk averse in general. And, like everybody is saying about like, oh, yes, innovation is great. We need innovations. But most of the time, leadership team is in general trying to reduce risks. That's their job. And we need to advise team or members that, hey, you need to do this to reduce risks. But I think when I heard my team is not having many failures, something's wrong. So they need to have a bunch of failures if they're challenging meaningful, aggressive challenges. So how can we have good balances between taking risks and embracing failures is very important. But in general, like when I was talking with Japanese folks in Japanese, I don't know, maybe if it's Japanese language problem, but we tend to, try to reduce risks. And that's really big challenge for Japanese people. And also like, newspapers, all articles are trying to say like, hey, this is bad. Maybe, we should be more positive. Hey, we challenged and we failed. What's the problem?
But I think Recruit, to be fair, is a very, very unique organization. I mean, we encounter many, many entrepreneurs that are ex-Recruit, for instance, and they all tell us that the culture inside the company, again, embraces risk-taking and almost not maybe celebrate failure, but there's like it's a safe place to fail. So how do you create that, and how can other organizations learn from that?
What we're saying is, we should bet on passion. What I'm saying is, okay, this guy has really experience, or this person has this skill, that skill. No, who is the, having the biggest passion to do this, to do that? It doesn't matter young, old, it doesn't matter, genders. This person is very passionate to do this. Okay, let's bet on this. And as a result, actually 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when I was talking with the investors asked me, hey, you guys are running staffing agency business and gaming company. What's your strategy? We're betting on passion. They didn't like this answer, by the way. But what's the problem, right? Hey, passionate guys are making innovations. What's the problem? Why do we have to be very smart-ish? And we're calculating 3 years revenue and EBITDA, blah blah. That I don't know. That's not our style. And I think there are so many similar people in the U.S. or many different countries, who is very passionate to achieve something. So that can connect us.
Right.
I think that's how we believe.
Okay. Koga-san, you were talking earlier about, vertical farming started in Japan, and now you're challenging, doing this in the United States. You talked a little bit in the back about if this were in Japan, communication would be so easy, everybody gets it. It was like Ishin Denshin, but so tell us about, that globalization
Of course.
challenge for you.
Yeah, so for us, I think the only reason that Oishi is still thriving in this vertical farming industry while most of the other companies have gone gone down in the past couple of years is because we had this very clear global mindset from the start. And I say this because, as you mentioned, Japanese companies invented this technology 10 years ago. So it's not a new technology. But everyone tried to accommodate or sell it into the Japanese market. And so the technology was a little too early, and the market was the wrong market, because when you look at Japanese, if you ever had the chance to go to a Japanese supermarket, you know how high the quality of the produce is compared to here in the US. And so it's the toughest market, right? But somehow all of those giants decided to start in Japan. And that's the reason why we purposefully avoided Japan, even though for me it would have been so much easier to start this business from the ground up if I did it in Japan. But we knew that the American market would be so much better because the product quality arbitrage is so much bigger here, and we'd be able to command a much higher premium for a Japanese strawberry than where we just sell it in Japan. And so it's not about just the technology, but the timing and where the right market is. And sometimes it's not within your country, right? And I think as I think people who's in this room, US might not always be the right market either, right? So I think each technology has its right place, and if you miss that, no matter how much you raise or how much innovation you create on the technology front, if the market doesn't exist, you're just wasting your time and money in a completely irrelevant place. So I think that was definitely, in hindsight, something that we probably did well.
Kuno-sensei?
Yeah,
want to
I
comment
think
on that?
as we are getting into the 21st centuries, I think more and more we can not think of the future of the world or world itself as an extension of the past, so that we need to be very much careful to think about the future. So that I hope that even if you feel something wrong, something weird, and so in your organization or company or yourself, I hope you can think about why that happened, what would be the behind the scene or something like that. So my case in 2016, even though that we started the Harrison Incubator here and 50-50 gender the balance, and so that we are very much pleased. However, once we started the funding for the fellows, I think 95% money just go to their man-made companies, so that we realize something wrong, and so that what would be the cause that's having that's very big and the imbalance between the men and the women. So that we found that only the 3% of the money of Silicon Valley, the venture capital, would go to the female-funded company. So as Cassie is doing a wonderful job, a wonderful thing in Japan, so that we really need to have the good investor if we want to have the good investee. So we created a women fund, and that is a women investors, and for the focusing on the women entrepreneur, and also the financial manager is also the women. So I think that is very successfully done, and 25 companies we invested, and already 3 unicorn companies created by that. So I think that's showing that the great potential for women to start their own business, and also the changing world, I think, based upon that idea. So I think that if you think about something wrong, and please think about what is behind that thing. Yeah.
I think it's a great philosophy of, don't complain.
Not
if you find a problem or something's wrong, what can you do to solve that?
Raise voice. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're running out of time, unfortunately, very quickly. So one last question. We have a bunch of amazingly talented young people in the audience here, and I think online. It's a difficult question, but any advice or thinking about your own journeys, what lessons, what things you did that you would not want to repeat, or any words of wisdom you'd like to share with the next generation? Idekoba-san? You're still young, so.
I think it's obvious we have to be global, and I think it's the potential growth rate of Japan is very tough. So I think we have to be thinking what we can do the best in the world, and we have to be finding out something, we can be number one, or even like we can be passionate number one in the world. Then it doesn't matter Japanese or whatever country nationality you have. You can be one of the leader in the world. That's how we live.
You have 2 young daughters, I heard, who are quite American.
They still couldn't find what they need to do, probably, but I'm not a good parent.
Koga-san, you're super young,
Super
but
young.
What advice would you share with the
I mean,
next
it's really
generation?
difficult to say anything in front of these 2 legends because if anything, I'm still trying to be successful. But I think my life really changed when I was 28 years old, when I found the intersection of my passion and what I'm good at. So my passion was trying to spread what Japan has with the rest of the world, and that was food in this case. And then what I was good at was I just happened to be in a leading position or very knowledgeable about the vertical farming industry. And up until that point, I had so much energy, but I didn't know where to focus all my energy on. And to borrow Kuno-sensei's words from the past, I felt like at that moment, I could see the peak of the mountain like very clearly for the first time. And once you get there, once you find that peak, then it's really easy to try to climb up. And so if there's anyone in this room who's like me 10 years ago, I would suggest spending, instead of watching Netflix or YouTube or Tinder, it's not going to take you anywhere. To try to go out to the world and look for your passion, and I think your life will really change.
Wonderful.
Kuno-sensei?
Yeah, thank you. So I think that now the very difficult, complicated world we are facing now, so that no one can be teacher or no one can be the boss for your life. So that's in closing, and I would like to share with you these values that we have posted on the walls of the Harushon. So that is 1, 2, 3, 6 things, and we have the list. Be bold, be risk tolerable, be optimistic, be humble, be mutually nurturing, and be nimble. So that is what I would like to share with you.
Very
today.
valuable, very valuable. So we are completely out of time, but really, please give a hand for these amazing speakers and entrepreneurs. Thank you very much for
Thank
coming
you.
to the next
Thank
session. ありがとうございました。